All right. Hello, my name is Benjamin Piper, also goes by Golden Bacon. I'm here today with Southbound leader James Biehn. He is from Des Moines, Iowa. And so, yeah. James, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing awesome. I didn't realize that you founded Southbound in 2008. I thought this was way more recent. That is a while and a half ago, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it became kind of a. I was teaching music at a music store, and the guitarist next door, who is a dear friend of mine, we kind of shared a love of the Almonds at the time,
Mhm.
and so we just kind of started just for fun, kind of working out all the harmonies and everything, and we are
Mhm.
just as things tend to lead like that, is like, well, we should do this in front of people. And so it
Yeah.
really started out as a one-off show,
Mhm.
and then really, and then we had maybe, and then it was very sporadic in the beginning. It's really just been, well, especially since post-pandemic is really when the rubbers hit the road, so to speak. Um, we had so that the original guitarist is no longer playing. He just
Mhm.
schedules and grown up things get in the
Yeah.
way. But we're very fortunate to have Dustin Farrow on the other guitar and the
Mhm.
vocals, and he's just been such an asset to us, and
Yeah.
trooper, and he works so hard, and so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, while we began in 2008, it was kind of it was almost like an annual thing as opposed to you know
Mhm.
keep pushing and doing more and more kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was crazy because I saw you guys just last week, almost exactly today, Saturday. And I was just like my dad's a huge Deadhead. He like skipped school in high school back in the 90s just to go to the concerts. He would do anything to go. And so, it was like Grateful Dead was playing that night and I was just like, "Oh, this will be fun, whatever,
Yeah, sure.
after
Yeah, yeah.
work." And man, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for Gwen. I wasn't ready for you guys. You guys were just killing it. I had a video. I'll play it. Gwen just going crazy, chicken feet and all. It reminded me of Elton John or something. And I showed it to her after the video. And she was like, "This is awesome. This is great. This is exactly what I was going for."
Well, it's for us, it's we feel like if we're getting the music right,
Mhm.
and the music is being represented and the spirit's there. I mean, clearly I want everybody to feel kind of unencumbered to kind of do what they, feel they need to do musically or physically, and I'll just look over occasionally and she's like doing a somersault or something, and I'm like, oh, right on, okay,
Right on.
you know. But it sounds so good, and it's kind of
It's
like, all right,
perfect.
that's the important thing.
Yeah, of course,
So,
having fun. That's the important thing. So my first question that I actually wrote down was why Allman Brothers? You kind of mentioned a little bit earlier.
growing up, and when I first started playing guitar and playing music in general, the band that kind of drew me in originally was actually Aerosmith. But you with that kind of stuff, between that and I don't know, you kind of start going down the rabbit hole in terms of like, well, Aerosmith's cool. Who are they listening to? And my grandmother
Mhm.
at the time, this is like late 80s, early 90s, got me a songbook of all BB King songs, and he became a tremendous influence. Like a lot of other guitarists my age and of my generation, Stevie Ray Vaughan was kind of is almost like a
Mhm.
superhero coming alive, in terms of just kind of like a larger than life figure, not just in the playing, but just the stage presence and kind of everything. It was kind of like, it was all that. And so, you know, it, you read interviews and who these people are listening to, and the almonds came up often, and up to a certain point, it seemed like Ramblin' Man was kind of the only song, which I was kind of like, it's cool, but I don't know, and I just kind of put them aside. But then the library at the time would let you check out CDs, and so I checked out the Allman Brothers Fillmore East album, and just kind of had this epiphany where it was like kind of all I listened to for a minute. It was like in particular, I mean, they're all the classics, Whip and Post and all that, but like
Mhm.
um there's one particular note that Dwayne plays at the end of the song Done Somebody Wrong, where I used to listen to CDs as I was going to sleep, when I was growing up. And like I just like sat straight up in bed and I was kind of like, it's just one note, but it was just so to this day it kind of gives me goosebumps still,
Yeah.
you know. And I was like, what is this? Like it just like the dynamics and and being in high school and college, being in jazz band and listening to jazz musicians, realizing that the Allmans had some of that too with the extended improvisation and just it's just so many different facets of American music
Hmm.
that all excite me, and combined with just the great songwriting of Greg Allman and Dickie Betts, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like when it came, it really wasn't like now I'm going to start a tribute band. It was just kind
Mhm.
of like feeling like where I was naturally as a guitarist and a musician. It was like right in the wheelhouse, and
Yeah.
now that the original band hasn't played. I mean, only one of them are still alive
Yeah.
now, and
Fortunately.
it's kind of like I don't want this to die. I think that our
Hmm.
friends in Winterland, the Dead tribute band, and
Hmm.
all of these groups kind of playing music by other bands, especially the ones who have kind of moved on. Um,
Hmm.
I think it's important that kind of music because I do think that if you approach it kind of with a certain amount of reverence, then it's gonna benefit everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, like, do you have a personal favorite Allman Brothers song that you like the most out of all of them?
I mean, it's kind of hard to choose, but for the song "Don't Keep Me Wondering," they're
Hmm.
like it's such a swampy
Yeah.
groove, and that's kind of like where my heart is as far as I mean, it's kind of all over. I love blues shuffles and everything else, but like just that groove or a song like Stand Back, which is also that kind of
Yeah.
groove. There's a swing to that, and I mean, it's just so infectious. And I don't know, like that's where I would probably put it. But man, there's so many. I'm ask me tomorrow, and it
Yeah,
might
exactly.
be a
It's always
different answer.
different. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say because you mentioned it earlier. I know it's, the one everyone knows, Rambling Man, but it's like
Mhm.
it's so on par of what I'm doing right now. I mean, just
Oh,
two guys rambling,
Rambling Men.
rambling about Allen Bros. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and it's certainly not a bad song. It
No,
just kind of,
of course not.
especially grown up, I was kind of like,
Hmm.
and I was the same way with the Dead at the time in high school. I was like,
Yeah.
well, this is cool, but it just doesn't feel like, like Stevie Ray felt to me at that time, or like
Hmm.
some of the blues stuff. It was definitely more country-ish. But now that I have appreciation of that and all these other American music styles, it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny that you mentioned a little bit of country because I have a lot of friends because we are in Iowa after all. Country is kind of the big hit here. I mean, farmers and whatnot. I think like at least me growing up, a lot of my friends like country where I like more modern stuff to folk and blues kind of area. I mean,
Uh-huh.
like I'm going Hinterland. I almost go to Hinterland every single year, and
Sure.
that's just a great way to find new artists and stuff like that. But like I go up to them and I'm like, folk is kind of the better version of country, don't you think?
Well,
Like, I'm just saying.
it depends on what era of country you're talking about.
That's true. That's true. Because, like, the
Because
old classic country is great, but, like, the modern stuff is like, ooh, don't listen to the radio.
right, right. Well, I mean, yeah, it's just I think on a instinctual level, the music um that has some staying power to it, it will stay.
Hmm.
And the music that's just, there's art and there's entertainment. And if you're doing it for the entertainment purpose, then it's kind of, single serving and
Yeah.
kind of throwaway. Um, but the music that'll be there forever will, it just it won't go away. It means too much to too many people.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, I mean, like kind of going back to songs and stuff, is there a favorite song that when you play on stage, what is your favorite song to play? I think.
Oh, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they all have, honestly, it's probably, usually the newer ones. We're develop. I mean, newer in terms of like ones that we've recently added to the repertoire.
Hmm.
Um, the thing with the almonds is kind of you try to hit, various eras. To me, the almonds had two two peak eras.
Hmm.
One is the Fillmore East, that's kind of set in stone clearly with Dwayne still alive and Barry Oakley
Yeah.
still alive and that whole thing. And then you have the late 80s, early 90s era when they reunited after a number of years of being split
Hmm.
up. In that era with Alan Woody on bass and Warren Haynes on guitar, I mean, it's just I mean, that almost speaks to me as much as the original lineup, but I mean, that also has to do with my generation, because it
Yeah.
was it was almost like I almost heard that at the same time I heard the original lineup on the Fillmore East album.
Hmm.
Um, so, there's a song called End of the Line, which is from the 90s era
Yeah.
lineup that I love. I don't think we did it in Cedar Rapids the other night, but
Mm.
it was a thing, we tend to fill our set list and then have to scratch them out. I'd rather scratch
Yeah.
songs out for the night rather than like sitting there going, I don't know, what do we play? We've played them all. So, which has also happened. I don't like that feeling though. Um, but End of the Line from the 90s era.
Mhm.
And then gosh, I don't know. There are, we finally added the song Come and Go Blues, which is from
Oh, nice.
the early 70s. I feel
Yeah.
like maybe we played it the other night, but I could be wrong. But
Hmm.
like that's another one that's kind of like, I just love kind of all the various parts of that, and Gwen always kills it on the piano solo. That's the era of the band when
That's
they
good.
had Chuck Leavell playing piano, who's I
Yeah.
don't know if you know who that is or not, but like Chuck Leavell is he started in the Almonds when he was 19, and then he went on to he's still for the last 40 years has been the keyboardist for the Stones and
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, he's kind of a legend. But anyway, I would say Come and Go Blues from the earlier band, and then End of the Line
Yeah.
from more recent stuff. Yeah.
Those are some fun songs to play, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of funny on stage. It's like the songs that you expect to kind of like, oh, this is gonna rule, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, or it's just like, oh, that was okay, and then
Yeah.
songs you don't expect to just like blow your face off, all of a sudden are like, oh man, okay, like that's cool. It's really that's the beauty of the music, though, is kind of it's so rooted in being in the moment and being present and the spirit of improvisation that it's kind of like, all right, I'll see you at the end, and let's hope we all land together.
Yeah.
I love it's a tightrope walk every night, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny that you mentioned generations because, I'm obviously pretty young. I'm still in college and stuff like that, just finishing up. But my generation's kind of weird in a sense because we grew up without the internet, but with the internet at the same time, like right on that line, almost exactly on that line. I still use VHS. I still have some CDs in my car. I know what these things are. I know about the Allman Brothers, I know about the Grateful Dead. And I guess it really depends who your parents are and what you grew up with, because that does play in a factor too. But I was just talking to a buddy of mine of like, man, like we were talking about the Rolling Stones, the Allman Brothers, the Beatles, and all this stuff, and it's like we're 21 years old. Most of these guys are dead.
Right? Yeah, yeah, it's
And
true.
yet we still love them to this day, and it just shows how good they were at in their prime. And now even to this day, I mean, it's just good to see them still chugging along and still making music and whatnot.
Yeah, it's interesting the idea of there are some great artists coming out these days. I'm a
Yeah,
personally a
for
big
sure.
fan of Jason Isbell and
Hmm.
um, a number of our other bands. And Whiskey Myers is super cool, and Blackberry Smoke is awesome. So it's out there, but this is definitely kind of almost like running side by side with the idea of the advent of the internet and technology in general. It's kind of become this field where um, on one hand, it's great because everybody can make and record music. I can sit at this very computer that I'm talking to you on and make an
Hmm.
album. And that's
It's
not a
great.
problem. But the computer also allows you to, fix the mistakes, make you sing in tune, make you
Mm,
whatever. And it also, not to say this is everybody, but it's definitely more of a standard these days of not really going out and playing shows before you kind of,
yeah.
it's kind of like the era of The Voice or something like that, where
Hmm.
it's kind of like, you sing well, but do you have I just think it's kind of that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing. Like get
Yeah.
the 10,000 hours in, before anybody knew who the Beatles were, they had played 10,000 hours together.
No.
And I definitely subscribe to that. It's getting the reps in and there were like, we know about these bands and love them, and I apologize if I am rambling here, but
Oh,
but
it's great.
the idea of there weren't nearly as many bands when the Beatles were kind of at their in their heyday.
Hmm.
There was probably 200 bands maybe at that time,
Hmm.
and the Beatles were largely responsible for all of those bands kicking off.
Hmm.
But now, I mean, how many bands or how many artists are there? There's
Oh gosh, there's an infinite amount because
there's
anyone with a
tons.
phone basically can make a song.
Right, right. And
He said,
and that's great, but
yeah.
ultimately it's the ones who kind of have to me, like the right intentions and the
Mm,
and are in it to do it regardless of if they go broke or not,
yeah, exactly.
which there's a definite chance of that happening too.
Yeah. It's crazy because like I always try to find those small artists that don't really have a huge voice and just try to, interview them, get them a little bit of promo. And there have been some just this recently, almost last week, that put out new songs that are great, like summer vibes, they're more lo-fi. They're not like Allman Brothers or anything like that. But
Sure.
I mean, these guys are like okay, you have 60 views on this song, and this is easily a 10,000 view song for sure. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, everybody now has to bow to the almighty algorithm.
I know, it's so annoying. This video itself is bowing down to the algorithm.
Well,
Gosh.
it's when I first started, I mean, maybe in the last year, I realized that people are subscribing to this. There's a schedule in order to get
Hmm.
to bow to the algorithm on, say, Spotify. It's like every 4 to 6 weeks you need a new song, and then you get on the playlist, and like it's very calculated in a way that I didn't really know about. And I was kind of like, oh, like that's really interesting, because
Yeah,
if you're not on that schedule, then I have an album I recorded almost 10 years ago that hardly has, and it's all original material and all that, and it has hardly any listens on Spotify. And I'm like,
exactly.
well, maybe I should re-release it one song at a time and try to,
Yeah, and they do
get
that.
on a playlist.
I mean, like that's why I like try to prioritize these interviews because like once in a while I would stop and then the algorithm would just drop for me like a rock because I didn't do an interview every single week or something like that. Because
Right.
again, like you said, it's like I try to edit, I try to put these things together, and but there's only so much time I have on my hands. So I mean,
Yep.
at one time I did blow up because I was just editing stuff together and I almost had to cheat almost. I used this a Reddit post called Sub for Subs and Likes for Likes, where people would go and just start watching each other's stuff. And if you got enough people, eventually the algorithm like, oh, this guy's getting X amount of views on this week, and then it'll pump it up. Like you said, it's all algorithm.
Yeah.
It's so
That's
annoying. It's so
it.
annoying.
It is like you want to think that, like, what's good is good and it'll rise to the top, like,
Hmm.
but man. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but you don't.
You never know.
Uh, yeah, there's a. I'm gonna screw it up, but I don't remember. There's a quote that I'm thinking of, but the bird sings because it has a song. It's
There you go.
that idea. So anyway,
Yeah. So yeah, well, going back to questions and stuff like that. So
of
you
course.
played at a couple venues so far. What has been the best venue you've ever played at?
Oh gosh, with Southbound.
Yeah, with Southbound.
Um, man, that theater, the Olympic Theater in Cedar Rapids,
It's
really
nice.
like it's so nice. Like the sound system was great, the staff was awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go to a place and they're just not all that helpful. But in this case, it was like everybody from the owner to the sound guy to the person taking money at the
Hmm.
door, like everybody was so cool and friendly, and and the audience was great, and yeah, like it's such a blessing to get to be able to work with people
Hmm.
like that. So besides that, there's a place in Sioux City we've played called the Marquee, and that place is
Oh,
awesome.
that's great.
We're actually going to be back there this fall, which I'm excited
Cool.
about. Um, and so besides that, until we play Red Rocks Amphitheater, it'll probably be venues
Everyone's saying that. Everyone's
like
been saying
that.
that. I've done 3 interviews and everyone said the exact same thing. Red
Oh, I have
Rocks.
I have instructions with my family to have my ashes scattered there. Like it's
Oh
like
my gosh, dude. I'm not even kidding. I did an interview last week with Anthony Armadillo, and he literally said the exact same thing. He's from Colorado too.
oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
like Red
funny.
Rocks, no question.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
I have not. I'm going this July to see gosh, what's their name? I always forget their name. But someone important, someone good.
Like
Um
not like Blues Traveler or anything.
um gosh, I don't know. Here, I'm gonna pull it up.
It's all good.
But it was like it was just yeah, everybody's been saying that that's the place to be. Like if there was a place to be
Yeah.
anywhere, it would be there.
Yeah. I mean that's the deal. I mean, I've been going there since my first show. I went there in '01, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is it." So yeah, and it's cool because you can go and like if there isn't a concert going on, it's just part of a park, so you can just go and stand on the stage if you want, or just whatever. So I don't know, it's phenomenal. It's just up there in the mountains and or the foothills, and it's so cool.
Yeah. So like I can't find it. But anyways, so like I didn't even Google this place yet. I am going completely blind. Like I want to be completely surprised when going into this place. I've heard so many good things about it. The only thing I've heard so far is that it is a bit of a walk. I think you have to walk a little bit.
There are a lot of stairs to get
Okay.
actually get into the interview. So if you do
I
your
mean, I don't
cardio
know.
and
Yeah. I'm
and
all good. Like
and
no
be,
worries.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
But,
then being in Colorado, the air is a little bit thinner
mhm.
than we're used to here. So but if I can do it, you can do it. Like
Yeah,
it's you should be fine.
there you go. So, well, that answers another question. And the other question was if you could play at any venue, where would it be? Clearly that one.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
there
but
for sure.
yeah, an interesting question. I always ask people this because you never know. If you could collab with anyone, who would it be?
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like I mean, I don't know. It's weird because, like, in a way, I have very much have like imposter syndrome. Like, if I was ever,
Mm.
like in a room with Jason Isbell or like Charlie Starr, who is the leader and principal songwriter for Blackberry Smoke, like I would, I don't know. Like, I feel like I would have things to offer, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, should I be here? Like, can I? Am I here to get you coffee? Like, what is this? What's this
Yeah.
about? But I would say probably those two. But I mean, I'm gonna once again, that's one of those like my answer may change tomorrow. But
Yeah.
those guys, the older I get, and this is kind of a cool thing with the almonds as well. When I was younger. I didn't pay as much attention to like how great the songs were. It was very much more of like a, you know, how cool is the guitar? How cool are the solos? How cool is the, like almost like in like a lot of young musicians, I think they listen to music sometimes in almost an athletic kind of ideals,
Mhm.
like how fast is this player? How whatever. The older I get, the more I'm just into songs more. And uh and with those two, I feel like, Charlie Starr and Isbell, I feel like those are on top of being tremendous guitarists and musicians, like their songs just like cut me. Like they're just so deep um and it's really, yeah, I would say if as far as today's players or today's artists, I would opt to go with the songwriters,
Mhm.
probably. So yeah, one of
Yeah.
those two.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. The only reason why I bring up that is that there was two people I interviewed, and this was like kind of rockabilly band in the UK, Birmingham, and they were great, amazing people. The Bitter Lemon, shout out to them. They said they would always love to have Les Green, which is kind of Little Richard. He literally is Little
Oh,
Richard.
okay.
And
Okay.
sure enough, literally a week later, he's like, "Let's do it."
Oh,
And
no way.
so, yeah, so I
Okay.
always, whenever I ask that question, I'm like, well, I'll always try. I'll always try to make that happen, but you never know.
You know,
So, yeah.
well, sorry to cut you
No,
off.
no, you go. Yeah.
It's important to have that, especially as you get older. I think it's important to, I heard somebody describe it like you always take your glove to the game because you never know when you're gonna catch
There
something. And
you go.
back in like oh oh back in like '03, I ended up at a jam session in Iowa City at a place called the Green Room. I don't think it's there anymore, but I ended up um, getting to play a couple songs with Derek Trucks, who was the guitarist for the Allmans from like '99 until about 15 the last 15 years he was one of the guitarists. And I got to play a couple songs with him, and it was kind of like it was that thing of like just dreaming about it and kind of having that, if you throw it out there, man, things can happen. I don't know, like, and if your intentions are good, and so I think that's so cool that you were able to connect that band with that artist and make that happen because why not? Like,
I pulled a lot of why nots just in the last year.
yeah,
I pulled a lot of why nots. I got more
absolutely.
lucky than I probably should have, but that's for sure.
It's that thing of like you don't regret the things you do. It's the things you don't do that.
That's 100% true. You never know. You would be surprised just sending one email or one little note to some artist. You would be surprised how many people pick up and say, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, and that kind of, especially in this
Mm.
day and age, how easy it is to communicate with an artist that you love. It's like,
Yeah.
why not? Like I think, that whole like the worst they can say is no, like, yep. But they you didn't get to collab with them prior to you asking them either.
Exactly.
So it's like
Yeah.
you just break even, you don't lose
Yeah,
anything.
you don't lose anything for
Yeah.
sure. So, out of all the shows you did, because you've done a couple, out of all the gigs you played in the past, like what was the most memorable for you?
Um, like Southbound or otherwise.
Um, I'm gonna say otherwise this time. How about that?
Yeah, so I played there have been a couple I played here in town, honestly. Like I
Hmm.
played um so there's one where as a solo artist I did a solo acoustic set. This is probably about 2018. There's a venue here called the Hoyt Sherman Theater, which is phenomenal, and so many of my favorite artists have played there. And I got a call asking if I could open as a solo performer for Chris Isaac there, and I did and that's is already one of my favorite venues, and to be able to play that venue was really special. When I did my album release party, like I said, this was back, geez, It's like almost 10 years ago now, but I played that solo or like played the album release show, and then on one of the songs, I have one son who at the time he was about 10 or 11 years old, and then my other son was 16, I think. And he plays the 16-year-old played a little bit of bass, and my at the time 11-year-old played drums, and we played Simple Man by Leonard Skinner.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
and then I had another buddy of mine he's like one of my best friends. He's a guitarist and kind of like their honorary uncle, and he played the other guitar, and it was like that. And that fortunately there's a video of it and everything. But
Awesome.
to kind of just be able to look back and see my one son playing drums, who he's still playing drums and still, and then my other one playing bass, and that's the older I get, it's stuff like
Mhm.
that. It's not, who I open
It's
for
cool.
or anything like that. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, you made your own band.
Truly, truly, like it's yeah, and we just have such a strong, cool relationship,
It's awesome.
just to see them kind of now being grown-ups in the world and doing just fine. It's yeah, it's
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, I would say that.
That's awesome, dude. That's crazy. But this is kind of weird for my next question though, because my next question is if you weren't a musician, what would you be doing?
Oh, gosh, yeah, definitely. Like I'm still a dad, but I don't know. I always really, I'm a music teacher as well. My
Oh
my
wow.
my day job is I own and operate a music lesson studio here, and we have two branches, and altogether there's about 300 students that take lessons
Wow.
between. So it's about 300 students and 20 teachers, called Central Iowa Music Lab, and and I love teaching.
Yeah.
And I have wondered sometimes about the idea of kind of like doing something else, like be
Hmm.
it be it teaching, like almost like a school teacher kind of way, or um a while back I watched a stand-up routine by Nick Offerman, who played Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec, and
Yeah.
he has this bit in his routine about um just making things with your hands, because he's in real life he's an incredible woodworker and has a
Yeah.
wood shop and sells creations. And he's like, if you just remember everything's a chisel, to some extent, then you'll be okay. It's kind of like, man, it'd be kind of cool to have something else. I love playing music, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But doing it as a job on occasion is, you know, it's sometimes it's famine and sometimes it's feast, and so the idea of kind of like coming home from, playing in Cedar Rapids or something,
Hmm.
and
It's cool.
um and doing something entirely different is kind of, the future's unwritten. I'll
Yeah.
be 48 in a few days, and
All right.
you know, there's still some time left. Who knows? So
Yeah,
that'll
for
be another
sure.
that'll be another interview.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So it's weird because I've asked a couple people that question, and they always have, different answers, depending who they are. Like the Bitter Lemons band, they're actually at night they're the band members for Rockabilly Band, but at day they're accountants for an insurance
Oh,
company.
see,
It kind of reminds me of me because I'm a finance guy by like in the morning, I'm going to school for that. And dude, I love
yep,
that expertise. But at night, I love talking to musicians and love music and all those different things.
sure,
So it's
yeah.
pretty funny to see that contrast.
Well, I love the idea too of especially in this day and age, how you can do things remotely. If you just have a
Yeah.
good Wi-Fi signal, um, being able to like if I had a laptop, I almost wouldn't have a house if I could just have like an RV and just go either as a solo artist or with Southbound and just do my day job in the day and play the gig at night, and like that kind of stuff. I feel
Hmm.
like that's I would definitely be interested in a more nomadic kind of thing, but until all of
Yeah.
my children graduate, that's a foregone
That would
or
be super fun too.
yeah.
Yeah, I got my grandparents live out in Park Rapids, Minnesota, population 3,000, out in the middle of nowhere. And it really is like the backwoods, nomadic
Yeah.
life. And they got
Yeah.
it's pretty fun to do stuff like that, just be on your own kind of thing. And an RV.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Go ahead.
No, if you wanted to add anything, go on.
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So my last question I have for you here is, do you have any hobbies outside of making music and being a teacher?
Oh, music for me now has so many different facets to it that I like anything that I love doing is kind of really just related to music in some shape or form. I've learned how to an extent, how to be a recording engineer, so I know how to do that. I do the teaching thing. Um, occasionally I'll get I don't know. Like I don't have anything on the level uh that I do with music. My um I remember at one time my ex-wife, now ex-wife, was asked like, "Have you ever thought about a hobby?" And I was kind of like, No, not really."
No.
Like I'm kind of like, no, this is like if I get free time to do something, I this is what I want to do, like, and it's been that way ever since 14, and
Wow.
well, I started playing at the age of 12 in 1989,
Mhm.
and it's really just been this kind of like each time I get a piece of the puzzle in terms of like, you know, learn how to play an Aerosmith riff or learn how to play a Stevie Ray Vaughan solo or something. It's kind of like, all right, okay, what's next? Like it's just this, and the guitar in particular has like there are no shortage of surprises in terms of like it's there's always something new with it, and I've been playing 35 years and it's always joyful, you know. So it's kind of like, especially post pandemic, I'm always looking for the most joyful route, and I find that that's the guitar and music in general for me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks again for coming on, just talking to me a couple minutes. It's been a lot of fun. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, man. This is
Yeah.
this is a trip, and it was a real pleasure to meet you at the
Yeah.
show, and
That was
I
awesome.
hope we'll be at the Wildwood in Iowa City in September as well. So,
Okay.
I hope
Yeah.
to maybe catch you there if
There
you're
you go.
around.
I'll stop by.
All
I'll
right,
be there. All right.
cool.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you, man. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
joining. Yeah,
Thank you,
bye.
man. Take care.
Yeah, take care.